Desperate refugee at auction is bought by a millionaire man, and what happens next moves everyone. Darkness. Desperation. The air is thick with sweat and fear. Chains rattle, scraping against the cold, unforgiving floor. A young refugee stands on an auction block, barefoot, trembling, stripped of everything but the clothes on their back. Their life, once filled with dreams, laughter, and love, has been reduced to a number. A price tag. A transaction waiting to happen. The crowd watches with dead eyes. Some sneer, their faces twisted with cruel amusement. Others whisper, calculating, treating this moment like a simple business deal. A man in a sharp suit leans forward. He scoffs. Too weak. Won't last a week. A woman in silk turns away. Not worth it. Next, the refugee stands there, heart pounding. This is it. This is where freedom dies. Then, a voice cuts through the tension. It's deep, steady, commanding. $1 million. The entire room falls silent. The air stills. Even the auctioneer, who has seen it all, stares in shock. Who is this mysterious bidder? And why would anyone pay such a price for a human life? The refugee lifts their head, eyes wide with fear, and something else. Hope? Stay with me, because what happens next will shake you to your core. Before the chains, before the auction block, before the cold, merciless eyes of strangers, there was a home, a childhood, a family, a mother's warm embrace, a father's laughter, deep and comforting, the scent of home-cooked meals wafting through the air, the sound of siblings giggling as they played in the dusty streets. A life that, at the time, felt ordinary, simple, safe. But safety is an illusion, and peace is fragile. Then came the war. It started with whispers, rumors that seemed too distant to touch them. Then, the sky filled with smoke. The streets became battlegrounds. Families huddled in dark corners, listening for the sounds of approaching boots, of gunfire, of destruction. One night, the walls trembled. Explosions ripped through the neighborhood, shaking the earth beneath them. The refugee, just a child then, was yanked from sleep by a blood-curdling scream. Their mother's voice. The kind of scream that changes everything. Their father pushed them toward the door, frantic, desperate. Run. Don't look back. But they did look back. The house was already collapsing. Flames licking at the walls. Shadows moving inside. Their mother and father, swallowed by the chaos. A hand grabbed their wrist. A sibling. Crying, trembling. Together, they ran into the night, their bare feet slamming against the dirt road, lungs burning from smoke and exhaustion. Days blurred into nights. They wandered, searching for safety, but safety no longer existed. And then, the betrayal. A man with a kind face promised help. Come with me, he said. I'll take you to a safe place. Hunger. Exhaustion. Desperation. The refugee and their sibling followed. They believed him. They shouldn't have. That night, the betrayal revealed itself. Doors locked. Hands grabbed. A bag shoved over their head. Screams, their siblings' screams, ripped through the air, then silenced. The moment of capture. Boots stomping on the ground. Hands gripping, pulling, yanking. A final, desperate cry for help, unheard. Then, darkness. The next time they saw light, they were somewhere else. Somewhere far. Somewhere that stank of despair, of fear, of people who had given up on ever being free again. A cargo hold. Packed like animals. Faces blank, hollow, barely human anymore. Days without food. Water was a luxury. Every hour stretched into eternity. Some didn't make it. Those who did wished they hadn't. And now, standing on this auction block, barefoot, trembling, stripped of dignity and identity, the refugee understood the truth. They were no longer a person. They were merchandise. A thing to be owned, bought, sold. And as the auctioneer's hammer hovered in the air, they braced for the next horror that awaited them. The air inside the auction house is thick with greed, with cruelty, with the stench of human suffering. The auctioneer, dressed in an immaculate suit, stands at the podium, tapping his hammer against the wooden block. His voice is sharp, practiced, the voice of a man who has sold thousands before. Next, lot number 47. The refugee flinches. They are lot number 47. A number, not a name, not a person, just something to be bought. A shiver runs down their spine as they step forward. Bare feet on cold wood. A single spotlight beams down, making them feel exposed, helpless, like a caged animal in a market full of hunters. Murmurs ripple through the crowd. Too thin, someone scoffs. Strong bones, though, another observes. barely worth bidding on. And then, laughter. Laughter. As if this were a game. As if they weren't standing here, trembling, waiting for someone to decide their worth. The auctioneer clears his throat. Let's start the bidding at 500. Silence. Then, a slow chuckle from the back of the room. 200. A man calls out lazily. 200. Less than the price of a watch. The refugee swallows, humiliation washing over them. Another bid. 300. Then 4. It's happening. Their freedom, their dignity, their existence, traded for pocket change. Then, a voice cuts through the noise. Deep, unyielding. A voice that doesn't ask, but commands. $1 million. The room freezes. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Even the auctioneer falters, his practiced composure breaking. 1 million? He stammers, looking up from his ledger. The refugee's breath catches in their throat. Who? Slowly, they turn. At the far end of the room, leaning back in a chair with the weight of a man who never hears no, sits a figure cloaked in quiet power. The millionaire. His presence demands attention. The kind of presence that turns heads in boardrooms, silences rooms with a single glance. The refugee meets his gaze. For the first time in what feels like an eternity, someone is looking at them differently. Not like a product, not like a prize, but like a person. There's something in his expression, a flicker of something that doesn't belong in a place like this. Rage? Disgust? Empathy? The auctioneer hesitates. Sir, perhaps you'd like to reconsider. The millionaire's eyes darken. His voice, when he speaks again, is final. I don't repeat myself. A silence thicker than smoke blankets the room. No one dares to challenge him. The gavel comes down. Sold. Just like that, the refugee's fate changes. Papers are signed. Chains are unlocked. For the first time in what feels like forever, they are free. Or at least, free from this. But why? Why would a man like him pay a fortune for someone like them? What does he want? And what happens next? The car ride is silent. The refugee sits in the back seat, hands clenched into fists, eyes darting to every shadow. Their heart pounds against their ribs, each beat a warning. Be ready. Stay alert. Don't trust. The luxury of the car feels wrong. The smooth leather seats, the quiet hum of the engine, none of this belongs to someone like them. They steal a glance at the man sitting beside them. The millionaire. He doesn't speak. His face is unreadable, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. Why isn't he talking? What is he thinking? 1,000 horrible possibilities flash through the refugee's mind. Was this a trick? Did he buy them just to throw them into something worse? Why would a man like him, powerful, untouchable, spend so much on someone like them? The world outside the car blurs past. Streets filled with people who will never know what it feels like to be treated like an object. The ride stretches endlessly, until finally, the car slows. A pair of massive gates swing open, revealing a mansion so large it swallows the night. The refugee swallows hard. The car stops. The door clicks open, but they don't move. Their body refuses. What's waiting inside? Chains? A locked room? A life worse than before? The millionaire steps out first. Then, a pause. He doesn't demand. He doesn't drag them out. He just waits. After a moment, the refugee forces their legs to move, stepping onto the stone driveway. The air is cold. The mansion looms above them, too perfect, too grand, too foreign. A house like this isn't meant for someone like them. He leads the way, pushing the heavy doors open. The refugee braces for what's inside. Darkness. Coldness. A prison disguised in gold. But when they step in, they see warmth. A fireplace flickers. A scent, something rich and familiar, drifts through the air. The walls aren't lined with locks and chains. Instead, there's comfort. Soft couches. Shelves stacked with books. A grand staircase curling upward, leading to endless rooms. The refugee doesn't understand. This isn't right. This isn't how this works. Then, the millionaire speaks. His voice is calm, firm, yet laced with something dangerous. Sincerity. You are not my property. You are free. The words don't register. The refugee's mind fights them, rejects them. People like them don't get to be free. Not after everything. Not after the chains, the cages, the hands that drag them from one nightmare to the next. They flinch, expecting the catch. The trick. The moment when it all snaps shut like a trap. But it doesn't come. A door opens, revealing a bedroom, not a prison cell. A real room. Soft sheets. A bed that looks too inviting, too clean, too safe. The refugee stands frozen in the doorway. Their mind whispers, don't trust it. They stare at the bed, the plush pillows, the folded blanket, a place to sleep that isn't a cold floor, a filthy cage, or a crammed truck filled with people just as lost as them. But their body refuses to move. The millionaire watches, but doesn't push. Instead, he speaks once more. Sleep, eat, heal. No one will hurt you here. Then, he turns and walks away. The door stays open. No locks. No guards. Freedom. But freedom feels like fear. What if this is just another trick? What if they wake up and it's all gone? What if kindness is just another weapon? They step inside, hesitantly, 1 foot at a time. They don't dare touch the bed. Instead, they sit on the floor. It's safer down here. Sleep doesn't come easily. Every sound makes them flinch. Every shift in the air makes their pulse spike. Trust is a luxury they can't afford. But the next morning, a warm meal waits on the table. A fresh set of clothes rests on a chair. No orders. No demands. Just kindness. And kindness is terrifying. Each small act, the food, the bed, the warmth, it all feels too much. Too good. Like something they'll wake up from. So, they don't eat it first. They don't touch the clothes. They wait for the truth to reveal itself. For the real reason they're here. For the moment when the illusion shatters. But days pass. Nothing changes. And slowly, something starts to crack. Not the illusion. Not the walls around them. But the walls inside them. And that is even scarier. The air in the mansion is thick with silence. The refugee eats in small bites, eyes darting, still unsure if the kindness is real. The millionaire watches, knowing that trust is a fragile thing, built over time, brick by brick. One evening, he finally speaks. You think I can't understand your pain, he says, his voice low but steady. But I do. More than you know. The refugee looks up. Suspicion flickers in their eyes. What does this man, a billionaire, living in luxury, know about suffering? About hunger? About fear? He exhales, as if pulling memories from a place he's buried deep. I wasn't born into wealth, he begins. I was born into war. Into poverty. My mother held me close at night, whispering that one day, things would be better. But they never got better. He leans back, eyes dark with memories. My father was a violent man. Every mistake was punished. Every dream was shattered. I learned to survive in silence. To never cry, never show weakness. Because weakness meant pain. The refugee shifts in their chair. These words, they know them too well. We barely had food, he continues. Some nights, my mother gave up her own meal just so I could eat. And then one day she was gone. Taken from me by sickness, by the cruelty of the world. A lump rises in the refugee's throat. They know this ache. He looks away, as if the weight of the past is suffocating. I was left with nothing. No family. No home. Just hunger and cold nights in the streets. He clenches his fist. I begged. I stole. I fought. Anything to survive. A deep breath. A long pause. But I swore. I swore to myself that if I ever made it out, I'd never let another child suffer like I did. The refugee listens, but the walls around their heart remain. I worked until my hands bled, he continues. I took every job, no matter how dirty, no matter how hard. I learned to be ruthless, to claw my way to the top. And when I finally had money, when I had power, I didn't use it to hurt. I used it to protect. His voice softens. That's why I bought you. Not because I own you, but because I refuse to let this world break you like it tried to break me. Silence. The refugee stares at him. A man who has everything, yet carries wounds so deep they still bleed. They want to believe him. But after everything, is trust even possible? The days pass, slow and uncertain. The refugee is given everything, a warm bed, food without conditions, silence without violence. But it all feels like an illusion, a carefully laid trap. Because life has never been kind. Because kindness has always come with a price. One morning, the millionaire makes a simple offer. Stay or leave. The choice is yours. The words echo. The refugee's heart pounds. Stay? In this house? In this world where kindness feels like a trick? Or leave? Back into a world they barely survived? The offer should feel like freedom, but instead, it feels like chains tightening. That night, the refugee lies awake, staring at the ceiling. Their fingers dig into the soft sheets, sheets that feel too clean, too soft, too much like something they don't deserve. Memories claw at them. The hunger, the cold, the way people looked away when they begged. the way hands grabbed and voices shouted. They sit up. Their breath is shallow. They can't stay. Slipping out of bed, they move through the halls like a ghost, heart pounding with every step. The mansion is silent, but its walls feel alive, watching, judging. They reach the front door. The handle is cold beneath their fingers. One turn, and they're free. Then, something catches their eye. A letter. An envelope with their name, placed on the table near the door. Hands shaking, they pick it up. The handwriting is bold, steady. They open it. And as they read, the world shifts. I know you're afraid. I was too. I know what it feels like to think the world only takes, only hurts, only deceives. I know what it means to run. I did it too. But running doesn't erase the past. It doesn't take away the scars. It only makes them harder to heal. I don't want your gratitude. I don't want your loyalty. I only want you to know that you deserve to live. Not just survive. To live. I made my choice long ago to help, even if people didn't trust me. But now, the choice is yours. The door is open. But so is this home. Whatever you decide, I won't stop you. The refugee grips the letter, breath unsteady. No threats. No demands. No chains. A choice. For the first time, a real choice. They look at the door, then back at the hallway behind them. And in that moment, they realize they don't know what to do. The refugee stands frozen, the letter trembling in their hands. The weight of the past and the uncertainty of the future crushed them all at once. For so long, survival had been the only goal. They had never been given a reason to believe in anything more. But now, this letter, these words, they offer something terrifying. Hope. And hope is dangerous. It can be ripped away. It can betray. Tears sting their eyes. Their heart pounds. They should walk away. They should leave before they get hurt again. But their feet refuse to move. Instead, they turn around. The house is still silent, as if holding its breath. The refugee walks slowly, as if every step might wake them from this fragile moment. They expect to be met with anger, with accusations. But when they step into the millionaire's office, he doesn't look surprised. He doesn't ask why they ran. He doesn't demand an explanation. He just looks up from his desk, meets their eyes, and says, "Welcome back." And with those two simple words, something inside them shatters. The refugee drops to their knees. The tears come without warning, without permission. They don't just cry, they break. Years of pain, years of fear. Every wound, every betrayal, every moment of suffering floods to the surface. They had held it in for so long, believing that if they just stayed strong enough, silent enough, maybe the world wouldn't notice them. But now, someone sees them. Really sees them. The millionaire doesn't interrupt. He doesn't rush to console. He lets them grieve, lets them release the years of agony trapped in their soul. And when the sobs finally slow, when the silence returns, he speaks. You don't have to be afraid anymore. The days that follow are different. For the first time, the refugee is not just existing. They're living. The millionaire doesn't just give them shelter, he gives them purpose. Education. For the first time, they learn to read, to write, to think beyond just the next meal. Dignity. They are not a burden, not a pity case. They are a human being with a mind, a voice, a future. A future. The word itself feels foreign, almost laughable. But with each passing day, it becomes more real. They wake up not in fear, but in possibility. They are no longer just a refugee. They are survivors. And that changes everything. The stage is set. A microphone stands in the center, its presence both intimidating and inviting. Rows upon rows of people sit in the audience, their faces expectant, waiting. But the refugee, no, not a refugee anymore, takes a deep breath, standing tall. They're not here to beg, not here to be pitied. They are here to be heard. Years ago, they had stood on a different kind of stage, a place where their worth was reduced to a number, where their life was up for sale. But today, they stand before a different crowd. Not as a victim, not as a commodity, but as a survivor. Their voice, once silenced by fear, now fills the room with strength. There was a time when I believed my life had no value. They begin, their voice steady but thick with emotion. When I was nothing but a nameless face in a sea of suffering. When I thought hope was a lie meant for others, but never for me. The room is silent, save for the occasional sniffle as the audience leans in, captivated. They share the pain, the horror, the moments that nearly broke them. They speak of the fear, the hunger, the betrayal, of the night they thought would be their last. And then, they speak of him. Their eyes scan the crowd, see. It spreads, growing louder, rippling through the crowd until the entire room is on their feet. After the speech, the refugee steps off the stage, heart pounding, emotions threatening to overwhelm them. And then he's there, the man who saved them. They stand face to face, so much unsaid, so much understood. No words are needed, just an embrace, a silent thank you. A moment of understanding that only two souls who have walked through fire can share. Because sometimes, salvation doesn't come from where we expect. Sometimes, the greatest rescuer is the one who knows what it means to be lost. And in that moment, with tears in their eyes and a lifetime of pain behind them, they realize they were never just saved. They were given a second chance to live. As the video fades to black, the narrator's voice carries one last message. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of the power of kindness, the power of hope, then don't let it end here. Like, share, and comment your thoughts. And if you believe in second chances, subscribe.